Liana Totetsi is in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, and we're live to him now. Good afternoon, Liana, and welcome to the PM News Desk.
A very good afternoon, Keshni, and welcome to Malabo.
Good. Agricultural transformation, Liana, is central to this meeting, as it is the 10th year since the adoption of the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Programme.
It is indeed. It became very clear today when the 31st session of the NEPAD Heads of State and Government Orientation Committee began, with more speakers calling for the transformation of agriculture as a key in order to lift and, of course, strengthen the economies of the continent, because there is a belief that agriculture is also essential for Africa's growth to achieve the goals of Agenda 23. However, it has been put in place that the first thing that we have to do is to make sure that the transformation takes place, but also this coupled with the support for women and youth in agriculture and encouraging partnerships.
Liana, how does the continent intend to attract more youth into agriculture and farming? We see it happening right here in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape with a measure of success. We actually need to see the same thing happen in all parts of the continent, though.
Well, there is a need, as it has been spelled out by some of the speakers, especially when a paper was delivered by the president of Mauritania, President Abdel Aziz, when he mentioned that the growth of the African continent agriculturally at the moment, it appears to be a bit low, but much can be done in order to make sure that they strengthen that, because he said there is a need to end the poverty. And even though some governments have shown some strides, but the support is much needed, and governments have to do more in order to make sure that they actually support even the small farmers, even those who are actually beginning farming, to be encouraged in order to make sure that Africa becomes sustainable. Africa serves its people and it feeds its citizens.
Liana, in Africa, we have mainly smallholder agriculture here. Now, the majority of this type of agriculture, well, it's organized by women farmers. Hence, women should be at the center of this transformation agenda. But the reality is that many women are barred by custom, sometimes by laws even, from inheriting or owning the land they live on and work on. Did the AU chair, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, did she share some insight on this, Liana?
She did indeed, but although she did not really elaborate in detail what the position is, but there was a call that women should be supported in agriculture. And also the fact that women and the youth should be given an opportunity to be highly involved in agriculture. This should come in form of bursaries for them, some of them to go to school, and some of them to be given private tuition if it's possible, but for governments to make sure that they invest in them. Because the other issue they mentioned was that if you look at an average farmer, is about 50 years. So we leave in no skills for the youth and the women who are out there, who are the real drivers of the economy in some instances, especially within the households. So there was a need, as she pointed out, that all governments have to do whatever it is to the best of their ability to ensure that they empower women and the youth.
Thank you, Liana. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We are out of time. Well, for more on that AU summit, we're now joined on the line by Mr. Jacob Zuma. He's the Executive Director at the Institute for Security Studies. Good afternoon, Mr. Zuma, and welcome to the PM News Desk.
Thank you very much.
Look, why is the summit being held in Malabo only 3 years later? Well, the previous one was there in 2011. We know it was set for Gabon and then moved. Is it a sign that perhaps member states are now reluctant to host what is a very costly event that the host city or nation has to incur?
The AU summits rotate between the different regions in Africa, West, Central, North, West, and Southern Africa. And it was Gabon's time they had offered, and the AU had agreed to host it in Gabon. But when time came closer, the costs was a major factor. And then Equatorial Guinea, which has got no absence of money given its oil income, then offered to stand in and host the summit. So this has happened before. It's not new. So it is hosted in Equatorial Guinea for the second time in 3 years, as you've mentioned. That is a little bit unusual, but it's not unprecedented. And I do think that generally African countries are concerned about the associated costs. It is quite large to host an AU summit.
Mr. Cilliers, many were not comfortable with Obiang Nguema elevated to the role of champion of AU values. Well, he has been in power, we know, for 32 years. And his son Theodoran, also the country's vice president, well, he's been accused of looting poor communities and was actually indicted by a French court for money laundering this year. In light of this, is Malabo the right space to advocate Africa's progress or to showcase progress in Africa at this time?
Malabo is a difficult venue for exactly the reasons that you've mentioned. Obiang and his family have looted his country. He has been a brutal dictator. And despite his country being the only African country that is classified technically as an upper middle income country, the vast majority of his people live in the absolute most dire situation of poverty. But there are signs that things may be changing. Earlier this year, he, for example, signed in on the APRM process, the Africa Peer Review mechanism, which is that Equatorial Guinea will have to subject itself to independent evaluation, monitoring, to see how it is progressing on a variety of areas that include issues that relate to poverty, governance, socioeconomic issues. So if one takes the approach of a glass half full, then we do hope that the increased visibility and efforts by Equatorial Guinea to also play a larger regional role and to be accepted will eventually turn into some degree of accountability. But at the moment, Equatorial Guinea is literally a scar on Africa's conscience.
Thank you. That was Mr. Jacob Cilliers joining us from the Institute of Security Studies.